Cloud tip number 1 is to identify your resources, because one of the biggest challenges I've seen over the last 16 years of using the cloud is looking at what's deployed in a cloud provider and not knowing whether resources are still needed, what they're used for, if you can delete them. There's so many resources that have fallen into dare not touch. This problem arises because the cloud providers make it so simple to deploy resources. So people will deploy for learning, for testing, for proof of concepts, but also then as a pathway to live. The trouble is, you've got short-lived resources and you've got long-term resources, and even those long-term resources will reach end of life. So how do you know when you can get rid of them? Particularly if the person who deployed them is no longer in the organization. Those resources that you don't know if you can delete are costing you money. An organization spends thousands every month on resources that they don't even know are running. They're also a potential security hole, especially if you don't know about them and they're unloved and unpatched. So there's a security breach waiting to happen. There's an environmental impact. You're potentially running CPU, you're holding on to memory and doing networking calls, all of which is having an impact on the environment from the electricity that it's using for cooling and power. And there's just noise. Whenever you go into the portal, there's more things to look at, more things to wade through, and the repeated question of, what do we need to do with these resources? But there are things you can do to mitigate this from happening. One of them is to use a really clear, simple, well understood naming convention that includes things like project or people's names or program names. So an easy way to identify who you need to speak to about these resources. The cloud providers give you logical grouping tools. So these are things like accounts, subscriptions, resource groups, projects. So you can collect resources together and again identify them by a name of a program, a project, a person. So it's clear what those resources are used for. You've also got labels or tags. So again, you can put people's names on or projects, key identifiers, so you know why those resources are there and who to speak to about cleaning them up. But you've also got automation, which works really well for those short-lived projects like proof of concepts and learning. So you can set timers and things so that resources are automatically deleted after 30 days of inactivity. The best way to deal with resources that are dare not touch and you can't find anybody to ask about who owns them is to look to see if they're being used, CPU, memory, networking, and then if they're not, then to switch them off and see if anybody shouts. You'll soon find your owners.